Nathula is a mountain pass in the Himalayas. It connects the Indian state of Sikkim with China's Tibet Autonomous Region. The pass, at 4,310 meters above mean sea level, forms a part of an offshoot of the ancient Silk Road. Nathu means listening ears, and La means pass in Tibetan. On the Indian side, the pass is 54 kilometers east of Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim. Only citizens of India can visit the pass, and then only after obtaining a permit in Gangtok. Nathula is one of the 3 open trading border posts between China and India. The others are Shipkila in Himachal Pradesh and Lipulik at the trisection point of Uttarakhand, India, Nepal and China, sealed by India after the 1962 Sino-Indian War. Nathula was reopened in 2006 following numerous bilateral trade agreements. The opening of the pass shortens the travel distance to important Hindu and Buddhist pilgrimage sites in the region and was expected to bolster the economy of the region by playing a key role in the growing Sino-Indian trade. However, trade is limited to specific types of goods and to specific days of the week. It is also one of the 4 officially agreed BPM points between the Indian Army and People's Liberation Army of China for regular consultations and interactions between the 2 armies, which helps in diffusing standoffs. The 4 BPM are Chushul in Ladakh, Nathula in Sikkim, Bumla Pass in Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh, and Lipulik Pass in Uttarakhand, 35 kilometers from the Chinese town of Burang. History. Nathula is located on the 563 kilometers old Silk Route, an offshoot of the historic Silk Road. The old Silk Route connects Lhasa in Tibet to the plains of Bengal to the south. In 1815, trade volume increased after the British annexed territories belonging to the Sikkimese, Nepalese, and Bhutanese. The potential of Nathula was realized in 1873, after the Darjeeling Deputy Commissioner published a report on the strategic importance of mountain passes between Sikkim and Tibet. In December 1893, the Sikkimese monarchy and Tibetan rulers signed an agreement to increase trade between the 2 nations. The agreement culminated in 1894 when the trade pass was opened. Nathula played a vital role in the 1903–1904 British expedition to Tibet, which sought to prevent the Russian Empire from interfering in Tibetan affairs and thus gaining a foothold in the region. In 1904, Major Francis Younghusband, serving as the British Commissioner to Tibet, led a successful mission through Nathula to capture Lhasa. This led to the setting up of trading posts Gyantsa and Ghatok in Tibet and gave control of the surrounding Chambi Valley to the British. The following November, China and Great Britain ratified an agreement approving trade between Sikkim and Tibet. In 1947 and 1948, a popular vote for Sikkim to join newly independent India failed and Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru agreed to a special protectorate status. For Sikkim, Sikkim agreed to be a protectorate nation and Indian troops were allowed to man its borders, including Nathula. During this period, more than 1,000 mules and 700 people were involved in cross-border trade through Nathula. In 1949, when the Tibetan government expelled the Chinese living there, most of the displaced Chinese returned home through the Nathula-Sikkim-Kolkata route. The current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, used this pass to travel to India for the 2500th birthday celebration of Gautama Buddha, which was held between November 1956 and February 1957. Later, on the 1st of September 1958, Nehru, his daughter Indira Gandhi, and Palden Thondup Namgyal used this pass to travel to nearby Bhutan. After the People's Republic of China took control of Tibet in 1950 and suppressed a Tibetan uprising in 1959, the passes into Sikkim became a conduit for refugees from Tibet. During the 1962 Sino-Indian War, Nathu witnessed skirmishes between soldiers of the two countries. Shortly thereafter, the passage was sealed and remained closed for more than 4 decades. Between 7 and 13 September 1967, China's People's Liberation Army and the Indian Army had 6-day border skirmishes, including the exchange of heavy artillery fire. In 1975, Sikkim acceded to India and Nathu became part of Indian territory. China, however, refused to acknowledge the accession at the time. In 2003, with the thawing of Sino-Indian relations, Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's visit to China led to the resumption of talks on opening the border. Later in 2004, the Indian Defence Minister's visit to China led to the formal opening of the pass. The opening, originally scheduled for the 2nd of October 2005, was postponed due to last-minute infrastructure problems on the Chinese side. Finally, after a decade of talks, Nathu was opened on the 6th of July 2006. The date of the reopening, which also formally recognized Tibet as part of China by India and Sikkim's accession to India, coincided with the birthday of the reigning Dalai Lama. In the years before the reopening, the only person permitted to cross the barbed wire frontier had been a Chinese postman with an Indian military escort, who would hand over mail to his Indian counterpart in a building at the border. The opening of the pass was marked by a ceremony on the Indian side that was attended by officials from both countries. A delegation of 100 traders from India and 100 Tibetans crossed the border to respective trading towns. Despite heavy rain and chilly winds, the ceremony was marked by the attendance of many officials, locals, and international and local media. The barbed wire fence between India and China was replaced by a 10 meters wide stone-walled passageway. It was also decided to mark the year 2006 as the year of Sino-Indian friendship. Geography. The pass is 54 kilometers east of Gangtok, the capital of Sikkim, and 430 kilometers from Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. In the winter, the pass is blocked by heavy snowfall. Because there is no meteorological center in Nathu, systematic measurements of meteorological data are not available for the region. However, it is known that in the higher reaches of the Himalayas around the region, summer temperature never exceeds 15 degrees Celsius. Nathu has moderately shallow, excessively drained, coarse, and loamy soil on a steep slope with gravelly loamy surface, moderate erosion, and moderate stoniness. It has several sinking zones and parts of it are prone to landslides. To preserve the fragile environment of Nathu on the Indian side, the Government of India regulates the flow of tourists. Road maintenance is entrusted to Border Roads Organization, a wing of the Indian Army. On the Chinese side, the pass leads to the Chambi Valley of the Tibetan Plateau. Flora and fauna. Because of the steep elevation increase around the pass, the vegetation graduates from subtropical forest at its base, to a temperate region, to a wet and dry alpine climate, and finally to cold tundra desert devoid of vegetation. Around Nathu and the Tibetan side, the region has little vegetation besides scattered shrubs. Major species found in the region include dwarf rhododendrons and junipers. The meadows include the genera Poet Mechanopsis, pedicularized primula, and aconitum. The region has a 4-month growing season during which grasses, sedges, and medicinal herbs grow abundantly and support a host of insects, wild and domestic herbivores, larks, and finches. The nearby Kyong-Yosla Alpine Sanctuary has rare, endangered ground orchid and rhododendrons interspersed among tall junipers and silver firs. There are no permanent human settlements in the region, though it has a large number of defense personnel who man the borders on both sides. A small number of nomadic Tibetan graziers adopt pasture jack, sheep and Pashmina-type goats in the region. There has been intense grazing pressure due to domestic and wild herbivores on the land. Jacks are found in these parts, and in many hamlets they serve as beasts of burden. The region around Nathu contains many endangered species, including Tibetan gazelle, snow leopard, Tibetan wolf, Tibetan snowcock, lammergeier, raven, golden eagle, and ruddy shelduck. Feral dogs are considered a major hazard in this region. The presence of land mines in the area causes casualties among yak, nyan, kang, and Tibetan wolf. The avifauna consists of various types of laughing thrushes, which live in shrubs and on the forest floor. The blue whistling thrush, red starts, and forktails are found near waterfalls and hill streams. The mixed hunting species present in the region include warblers,It babblers, tree creepers, white-eyed wrens, and rose finches. Raptors such as black eagle, black-winged kite and kestrels, and pheasants such as monals and blood pheasant are also found. Economy. Up until 1962, before the pass was sealed, goods such as pens, watches, cereals, cotton cloth, edible oils, soaps, building materials, and dismantled scooters and four-wheelers were exported to Tibet through the pass on mule-back. 200 mules, each carrying about 80 kilograms of load, were used to ferry goods from Gangtok to Lhasa, which used to take 20 to 25 days. Upon return, silk, raw wool, musk pods, medicinal plants, country liquor, precious stones, gold, and silverware were imported into India. Most of the trade in those days was carried out by the Marwari community, which owned 95% of the 200 authorized firms. Since July 2006, trading is open Mondays through Thursdays. Exports from India exempted from duty include agricultural implements, blankets, copper products, clothes, cycles, coffee, tea, barley, rice, wheat, flour, dry fruits, vegetables, vegetable oil, tobacco, snuff, spices, shoes, kerosene oil, stationery, utensils, milk, processed products, canned food, dyes, and local herbs. Chinese exports to India exempted from duty include goat skin, sheep skin, wool, raw silk, jack-tail, jack-hair, china clay, borax, butter, common salt, horses, goats, and sheep. Restrictions are placed on traders, with permits only given to those who were Sikkimese citizens before the kingdom merged with India in 1975. There were fears among some traders in India that Indian goods would find a limited outlet in Tibet, while China would have access to a ready market in Sikkim and West Bengal. The reopening of the pass was expected to stimulate the economy of the region and bolster Indo-Chinese trade, but this has not happened. Figures released by the Tibet Autonomous Regional Bureau of Commerce show that in the 51 days of trading in 2006, only $186,250 worth of trade passed through Nathu. On the Indian side, only citizens of India can visit the pass on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. After obtaining permits one day in advance in Gangtok, The pass is particularly useful for pilgrims visiting monasteries in Sikkim such as Rumtek, one of the holiest shrines in Buddhism. For Hindus, the pass reduces the journey time to Mansarovar Lake from 15 to 2 days. A major concern of the Indian government is the trafficking of wildlife products such as tiger and leopard skins and bones, bear gallbladders, otter pelts, and chartreuse wool into India. The Indian government has undertaken a program to sensitize the police and other law enforcement agencies in the area. Most of such illicit trade currently takes place via Nepal. Transport on the Tibetan side, 2 highways from Kangma to Yedong and from Yedong to Nathu were listed in the 2006 construction plans. Plans are also underway to extend the Qinghai Tibet Railway to Yedong over the next decade. The nearest railheads are New Jalpaiguri in India and Zigaz in China. The Chinese government is planning to extend its rail service to Yedong, a few kilometers from Nathu. In addition, the government of India is planning an extension of rail services from Savok in Darjeeling district to Sikkim's capital Gangtok, 38 miles from Nathu.